So good morning, everyone. Hello, I'm Emily Sicorsi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Root and River.
And I'm Justin Foster, also the co-founder of Root and River.
We are so excited that you joined us for this webinar, How Marketing is Harming Your Brand and What to Do Instead. So we're thrilled that you're here. We're going to go through and have a really, we're going to throw out some concepts, some ideas. We're going to tell you to stop marketing. We're going to be a little bit heretical, which is our thing. We're also going to encourage you to be a little heretical as well and do some exercises around how you can extract that kind of rebellious part of yourself and bring it forward into your brand. So we are very excited, and without any further ado, we're going to dive right in. Time is of the essence.
So I'm going to launch a poll here and just weigh in with your answer. While you're doing that, the concept for this has been a long time coming, doing this webinar, because we've observed this general sense of marketing fatigue on both ends of the equation, and both the marketer and the marketing. And but I think we try to always be both pragmatic and positive. And so it's easy to criticize, shitty marketing. That's not hard to do. And so that part of the presentation should probably come with a warning label. If you're a marketer, you might get offended, and we're okay with that. And then the second part is what to do instead, which is around what we call the 4 courageous acts of branding. So, so we see the poll results coming in.
Yeah, it is a landslide here. Have you received any annoying marketing requests? 83% of you have said, yeah, yes, I have. No, not yet, but the day isn't over. Yeah, we'll, if we could check back in at the end of the day, I'm having a feeling that would probably be 100% in the yes column. But,
right.
This just goes to show how much we are bombarded with requests for purchases, requests for first of all, for our attention, and then for us to purchase, to buy, to be part of the marketing ecosystem. All right, well, we love that as a level set, and we're gonna get started with some of our other thoughts here. So we're going to talk through how marketing is harming your brand, but we want to start with a little bit of a level set, as we always like to do at Root and River. First of all, we always begin with grounding into the idea, our definition of brand, that a brand is how other people experience what you believe. And I know we have some friends of Root and River who've heard that before, but maybe somebody's new to this idea. But there's really 2 operative words here: experience and believe. So brands are experiential, but they're not experiential around just sort of randomness. They're experiential around what we're deeply tuned into and trying to convey through our behaviors and our standards. And that's really the way other people experience that. That's what brand really is. And the next level set, is around poor marketing. So we said in this webinar that marketing is harming your brand. Now, we don't mean all marketing ever over time. What we mean is really poor marketing. And we're going to talk through how poor marketing is intrusive, it's dehumanizing, it is characterized by its mechanized bullshit, and how it produces the cult of sameness. And we're going to give you some examples of that in just a little bit.
And as we go through this, what poor marketing is, we've all done this, many of these things, and maybe unconsciously. And it's partially because we were taught as entrepreneurs or marketers that it was okay. And we don't think that anymore, that there is a level of let's call it ethical relativism in marketing, that you can have certain behaviors as long as it helps you hit your numbers, a kind of a Machiavellian view of the world. And that's what makes it dehumanizing. On the same side is when you do it well and you brand well and you market with a great message, it does add light to the world. And that's why we set it up with like, stop please stop doing these things. No shame if you used to do them, but what to do instead.
Exactly. So healthy marketing is empathetic. Okay, so it takes other people's feelings into account. It automatically tunes in to the recipients of the marketing. It's invitational and inspirational. So you're inviting somebody in instead of pressuring them. And it's designed to uplift the spirit, not be condemning or use FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in its tone. Healthy marketing, I think, is told in stories. I come from a journalism background. It's all about storytelling. And through stories, our humanity really is revealed. So it's a great way of marketing, very healthy. And that it's clear. It's clear. And this isn't something that, I think a lot of times this is where a lot of us struggle. How do we get really clear on our message? And when the message is muddled and it's buried and we think, well, I'll get to that. I'll get to what I believe or what I'm all about, like later on in the website or later on in the conversation. It makes it really difficult for people to understand where you're coming from and what you're actually about. And that's what they need to make decisions. So healthy marketing is really clear. As Brene Brown says, clear is kind. It's kind to your audience when you're clear about what you believe and you put that out there right away.
Mm-hmm. And it, not surprisingly, unhealthy and healthy marketing is very much related to the mindset of the marketer or the culture. So if you're doing marketing for a larger organization, it's the collective consciousness. And so through the lens of lower self, higher self as a model, lower self marketing is based off of fear. It's based off of a lack of, it's based off a scarcity mindset. It's based off of comparison and consumption, but it's all fear-based inside of the marketer. That's why it's fear-based to the marketing, people being marketed to. Conversely, healthy marketing is from the higher self. It's from more of the heart, and it's around, it built around, like it says, like we said, invitation instead. What that means for everyone is you need to do that inner work yourself. If you can't be a lower self marketer and do higher self marketing. It's not sustainable. Conversely, if you are doing marketing for a larger organization, a lot of your marketing systems are set up to take advantage of someone else's lower self scarcity mindset. You're going to have to upgrade your marketing systems. So to tell stories, for example, if you've got a big copywriting team and they're used to writing technical copy, and you're saying, no, go out and be like a journalist now, that's a shift of system. Or whatever CRM you're using or marketing automation you're using, all of those tools may need to be upgraded to reflect the fact that you're going to market at from a higher self place to the higher self of your audience.
Mm. Yeah, there's no shortcuts. We have to do the work on ourselves in order to be healthier so we can market in a healthy way. Yeah, good point. So let's talk about the current world, right? We have unhealthy marketing a little bit in our minds now and healthy marketing. Now, what kind of a world are we living in? We came upon this term from Edelman from a study that they did in 2021, that we are living in times of infodemic. And I love this term as a language nerd. I was like, great term. But basically what that means is that there is a ridiculous amount of information, a glut of information, a plethora of sources, updates constantly. All of this cacophony of noise and information has resulted in an erosion of our trust. It's resulted in an inability or a difficulty at the very least, to focus, to process information, to know who and what sources to trust, a lot of skepticism. And that has hardened us. It's kind of pushed us down. It's made us feel squished, and it's hardened us. The most trusted source now these days are business leaders. The media is less trusted, the government's less trusted. But what Edelman found was that business leaders have the most inherent trust now. So we're living in these infodemic times, and that makes marketing in any capacity pretty difficult. We've also experienced a pandemic, and that has only exacerbated all of these factors and all of the fear and reticence to trust and to rely on good information. You want to talk to this one, Justin?
Yeah, so this is kind of the first, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's the first indicator that there's something wrong when something I told my sons when they were kids, when they were little. I said, if you ever look around and find people that all the people around you look like you and talk like you, you're either in a cult or you work for a major corporation. And that sea of sameness is kind of a relic of the industrial age. And you can see this with sort of like global materialism as an example, and waste and garbage in the oceans. And it's all related to this idea that in order to create mass appeal, you have to create a sense of sameness out there. And so we probably have all been in that environment where we're like, you could go to take an exit off of a freeway and there's the Applebee's and the Hampton Inn and the Barnes and Noble, and you may not know where you're at because everything sort of looks the same. And what happens with that is a type of fatigue where the mind cannot process the fact that everything is very homogeneous, and it starts to just shut down and maybe only notice something that is markedly different. And that's what we recommend branding be, is that you have to break the sea of sameness. You have to be the blue dot or the red dot in the white sea of sameness.
The other factor here is we are exhausted, right? We are so tired. We're overwhelmed. That glut of information has led to not a complete, but sometimes in moments, complete shutdown of our brains. We struggle with decision fatigue. I don't know about you, but ever since the pandemic, I get to the end of my workday, I can't even begin to think about how to make dinner. And I attribute that to the intensity with which I work, the focus with which I have to try to maintain with all the distractions that are coming at me, that more creative and functional part of my brain that could help create a meal for my family is completely shut off. And then by the time I have to make decisions to put food on the table, I'm done. I am exhausted. I cannot function at that level. So we all have this fatigue. We're also really exhausted by marketing. We're exhausted because of the influx of digital marketing during the pandemic. It started in the pandemic. We just had an incredible rush for businesses into the digital space. And it is completely now exhausting to enter that digital space sometimes, as we saw from our poll at the beginning. We're immediately inundated with marketing requests. And then as marketers, as business owners, as people who know they have to get out there and sell and market in a new world where there's still a lot of restrictions, it's kind of exhausting to even think about leaving our homes or putting together something that could go out digitally into this world. So those are the factors that are really facing us. And I want to get into the fact that marketing makes all of this worse, makes these factors worse. We promised some examples of what we talked about earlier. Unhealthy marketing is super intrusive. So this is an actual shot off of my phone the other day. I actually silence all my alerts, so I had to kind of scroll through to see them. But marketing that is inhumane or unethical in our perspective is really intrusive. Its entire goal is to interrupt you where you are and grab your attention away from what you were doing. So that's an example.
And I think again, it goes back to desperation. There's attention is the new currency. But a lot of brands act like, somebody that is desperately running around looking for a date for the prom the night before the prom. And desperation is a terrible pheromone for a brand, because it makes you do impulsive and stuff that's actually harmful to your brand. And like we said earlier, it's been mechanized. It's easy to be intrusive now. The filters are, we have to set up our own filters, as like you talked about, and like you have to turn your notifications off. Nobody's going to do that for you. Or you have to upgrade to the Hulu premium so you don't see the ads. We have to make those choices to protect our attention, because brands aren't going to do it for you.
No. Dehumanizing, and we realize that is a very powerful word, and I think stock photography is a great example of subtle dehumanization. I mean, you've got very and it's so overused everywhere, but you've got a very hyper masculine white, typically, although the top photo shows some diversity, but still people don't work like that anymore in very many places. And there are a lot of subtle promotion of traditional stereotypes, traditional perspectives on beauty that are consistently put forth. There's also a new kind of expectation of perfection that social media has really propagated, and that is dehumanizing. When the person that you're following is always looking perfect and sharing about their perfect life or their awesome day or how they're crushing it, it can be just soul crushing. And that's what unhealthy marketing can really look like.
And there's dehumanizing things that are taught as part of like marketing philosophy. One of them is the use of like avatars, or and where you build this like composite of the ideal client. The term target audience is also dehumanizing. Nobody wants to be a target. And so this permeates marketing philosophy. And I just started listening to Adam Grant's book, Think Different, about thinking differently. And he points out that it's a modern skill to unlearn, because we've been in this glut, as you said, Em, of information. And so when you're looking at your own marketing practices, you may not intentionally be dehumanizing, but if you're using like automation to be intrusive, and also where it's not the way that you're talking is in a tone that is to some sort of avatar instead of to the person, that's dehumanizing, because these are real people with real needs and real lives and whatnot.
Yeah. Mechanized BS. So again, I just went to my own inbox and my own LinkedIn to pull a few examples of this mechanized BS. I once sat through a presentation of somebody in a business group I was in, and he basically taught the group how to use they're like apps that you can use that basically hack into LinkedIn, allow you to create fake profiles and hit people up with requests. I mean, it's basically the old school, potential spams now that we all ignore on our phone, but turned into the digital age, right? And so we're seeing a tremendous amount increase in these coming at us all of the time without any regard to who we actually are, or with little regard, and just the repetition. It's something Justin and I in the past have called blunt force trauma marketing. And the fact that it's mechanized in this way just feels, I don't know, it feels gross and dirty to me.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not my favorite thing.
Yeah, and you think about like the whole, like what, 50%, 40% of Twitter are bots. There was when the social media, Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot, shut down Russian access to those, the traffic to people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens plummeted. So it looked like they were, super relevant, and everybody agreed with their, crazy opinions on things. But when the bots were turned off, the actual, who was really engaging was a much lower number. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's something you touched on before, that during the height of the pandemic and the shutdown, and we're all working from home, it's like, in order to justify your existence, you needed to do something, and also to try to keep the lights on. So like we get that intention, but it's not the mechanized that's the problem. What's the problem is the bullshit. Like the mechanized part is just a tool. And there are brands like REI that use mechanization, but they're brilliant at the way that they do it. Or Liquid Death, a water brand, where they use humor. They market at a frequency, but they use humor to do this. So think in terms of, okay, if this feels like bullshit to me, it's probably bullshit to my audience. And it's not so much about being unmechanized, it's about unbullshitting your marketing.
Mm-hmm. And resisting the pressure to mechanize, because there's pressure around it. The other one is what Justin talked about earlier, which is the cult of sameness. And I'm sorry if I'm insulting you if you got a gender reveal party, but it's just the first thing that came to mind from an image standpoint. The things that everybody has to do, and they're going through this, and you've got to, you've got to have the gender reveal, and you've got to have the hashtag for your wedding, and you've got to do the bridesmaids getaway, and just the cult of sameness. And there's a real business model behind this, right? I live in Scottsdale, in downtown Scottsdale, and not only do we have a number of Airbnbs in the area that are very popular with people who are celebrating occasions. I've noticed in my walks and runs around the neighborhood, we also have people that are servicing those Airbnbs with all the decorations. So they come the day before, they put all the same decorations up, and then they leave, and then they come back and take all those decorations down. Then they come back the next week and put the same ones up. So it's certainly a trend, but it's something that has become so ubiquitous that it loses its meaning. It feels more rote, right? And so marketers can sometimes use this pressure to follow the cult of sameness, to put us into that sea of sameness, with a little regard for our differences, for the fact that maybe not everybody wants to have a gender reveal party. And so, yeah, that's just a way of subtly eroding our humanity through marketing.
And I'm pretty sure you've got a double one here, Em. I think this is also stock photography, because look at the book titles, they turned them around. So
it is stock. It's actually Pexel. It's from Pexels, but yeah.
But still, yeah, it's not like, yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting thing. There's a great gravitational pull to sameness, and again, it's all based off of fear, and it's a deep primitive fear. I mean, our two main the wiring of the human brain is do not die and do not get kicked out of the tribe. So things that make us feel like we're part of something can be very, very comforting. And brands know that. And so they have this subtlety of the way certain people look, or the way they talk. That's where the cult of sameness starts to creep in. And the great test of this is just go out and do something different and watch what happens. Even if it's something small, that when you do something that's obviously different, even if it's a small thing, people will say something like, oh, I've never seen that before. I've never heard of that before. Oh, that's nice to see. That's new. Like receiving a handwritten thank you note, as an example, as opposed to an email.
Yeah, we have some great comments about this in the chat. Megan says, do you think that posting about inane, fun holidays falls into this, like National Pancake Day? I think so. In a lot of cases it can, especially if it's just like, here's the stock photo, happy Flag Day. But if it's a funny take and people are infusing some humor into it, it can be more genuine. But I definitely think that one can. And then Brienne says, reminds me of TikTok audio dances. Yeah, TikTok is all about this. So definitely part of the cult of sameness. So we want to do a quick breakout, and there are 13 of you. So I think actually we'll have just 2 or 3 people in a breakout. But here's the question for the breakout. It is what marketing do you hate being subjected to? So share the marketing that you hate. And if you have marketing that you enjoy, or there's somebody out there that you're really listening to, you can share that as well. And we're just going to have about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes for a quick share. So don't worry, you're not going to be sitting there forever, but we're going to have, we'll say 2.5 minutes, Justin, just to give them time to say hi. And then we'll get you right back here where we're going to talk about the 4 courageous forms of branding that will help. So Justin, do we have all the breakouts wired up?
No.
Oh, you don't?
I haven't done the breakouts before. I didn't know. I thought it was a feature. So.
Oh, okay. We're not gonna have a breakout. We're gonna pivot, and we're gonna actually have you drop into chat. So, and drop into chat and let us know what marketing do you absolutely hate? What is your pet peeve? Maybe it's the TikTok dances. Maybe it's the terrible Flag Day post. Is there a form of marketing that you just cannot stand, that you hate? And then let us know if there's something that has gotten your attention that you are actually enjoying. It's a weird question. Like, is there marketing that you're enjoying receiving? Is there something that you like to get? We'd love to hear from you. Justin, do you have one that is particularly irksome to you?
Yeah, two. One is the commercialization of really any holiday, but especially Veterans Day and Memorial Day. The Memorial Day sale, and we're gonna give tribute to our fallen loved ones by buying a new mattress. That type of stuff. I think that's super gross. And then the second is the kind of the hyper Americanization, like the not patriotic. I'm patriotic, but that kind of Dodge did a bunch of ads like this. Dodge isn't even an American car company anymore. It's owned by Fiat. It's an Italian car company. Mm-hmm. But they're like, this is the American way, and this is how Americans do it. This sort of like, nationalistic, like, if you don't buy our products, then you're a communist, type tone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yes, I hate that. We've got a few answers here in chat. So Ron says, cold email marketing come-ons that are subtly passive aggressive or put downs, which are so weird. I totally agree with that. It's unbelievable that the kind of manipulation people try. Doug says the stuff that looks like legitimate information that is really only intending to sell you a membership. Yeah, I think of, organizations that are trying to inform you, but it's really scaring you into buying their insurance or joining their organization. Brianne says, hate the spam emails you showed earlier. Yeah, but can we schedule a quick 15-minute chat? Like, I'm just going to give you my most precious resource, my time, because your company wants to sell me something that I didn't even ask for. Yeah, I hate them. MLMs, yes. And the way people talk are generally taught to talk about themselves, things like #bossbabe and CEO business owner, as well as language like, you should support me because of X, Y, and Z, and I need the business. Instead of, I have a product that will benefit you. Yes, Megan, thank you. Justin, yes, anything that says 10x. Actually, in one of those emails, it says 10x.
Yeah.
Scale, crush.
Yeah, I have a Venn diagram of that. The guy, it's always a guy, first of all, almost always a guy that says 10x, also eats at Chili's and has a bad tattoo. That's my kind of Venn diagram.
Yeah. Chris says, I love the emails I'm getting from Wild Sam, even though I did not sign up for them. I'll have to check that out. Thank you, Chris, for sharing something positive. Yeah. For me, I really hate the blind. I hate it when they're like, hey, Emily, like, it'll catch my eye because of something they say and I get sucked in, and then I'm like, wait, this isn't even something I want, it's something I need, and like, it works for a second, and then I realize it's like, it is trying to waste my time. I had another, I hate, and it's definitely more of an advertising approach, but here in Phoenix and maybe in other markets as well, there's a company called 72 Sold. And maybe you've all heard of it. I actually know the owner of it. I have a long history with him. And he just decided to like buy out everything and sponsor everything. And so his ads were everywhere to the point where it was just crushing it. It was always him in the ads. And it just is disgusting. And I hate it. So there we go. All right. So we are going to move into what can we do instead of doing all of this garbage. So, whoops, sorry, wrong screen. Stop the share. Let's go back. So being different takes courage, right? And so we have these 4 courageous practices that we can root ourselves into and that we want to share and discuss with you that will help provide an alternative. And you see the energy shift in me. Like this is like a grounding, right? We don't want to say that we're not going to market, but we want to ground in what's real and true. And we want to feel that energy shift within us so that we can then be more aligned in what we're sharing and how. So the first courageous act is to organize yourself around your beliefs. You don't have to be like everyone else, even though there is a tremendous amount of continuous pressure to do so. And we have 2 questions here for you. First of all, right now, is your brand more organized around products and services than it is around your beliefs? So just and you can answer that in your heart, you can answer it in chat if you'd like, but just kind of a check-in. And then what 2 or 3 beliefs, or do you have beliefs inside of you or within your organization that you think could really be powerful if you shared them more?
Mm-hmm. And I think when we say beliefs, you can call them non-negotiables. We like to say that a belief does not shift under pressure. A belief that shifts under pressure is a tactic. And so if you have these non-negotiables or these like core, like intrinsically embedded in your being, how much of that is reflected in the way that you are branding? Or another way to look at this, if we gave the definition of a brand as how other people experience what you believe, what are others experiencing that you believe in? How do they know that? What beliefs are coming through, being reflected in the experience that people have when they approach your brand?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And most of the clients that we work with, we help them uncover 5 core beliefs. These are things like, for instance, Root and River. We believe in mission. We believe in love. We believe in beauty. We believe in defiance. So those are just examples. So these are 1 words that really are the pillars of the foundational stones of your brand. And so when we're able to organize around them and share from that place, we are differentiating ourselves from the beginning, because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you're holding that conversation and you're sharing or expressing around those beliefs, you will stand out. You won't be like everyone else in your space.
And so one other thing on that, Em, is that if you've done some of that work, maybe you have your core values, or this is writing down your core values as an entrepreneur is not a new thing. But we would challenge you to look at one of them and focus on that as a way that you organize your brand. So let's just pick one. Let's say maybe one of your core beliefs is inclusivity. Or equality, justice, something like that. Is watch what happens when you start to organize around that. So you can be in any business. You could be, you could own a coffee shop. You could make, gasket seals for, plumbing. It doesn't really matter what business you're in. What matters is the beliefs that run that business, or that inform that brand. And there are examples. I don't agree with the politics or the theology of this brand, but like Hobby Lobby, they've organized their brand around their religious beliefs. They've made that very clear, and so they attract a certain kind of person. There's no like, they don't tamp that down. Same with like Patagonia and Nike. They make it very clear that they're not really in the shoe business or in the clothing business. They're in this is our worldview business, and they give clients or customers the opportunity to participate in their business through their belief systems, not their products or services.
Right. So the next one is use your no. So we often say you build a business or a career by saying yes, but you build your brand by saying no. That's true in terms of saying no to pressure to market in a way that is unhealthy. That is true of saying no to, no, I'm not going to take on something that really doesn't allow me to be at my best and do my best. And it can be no to being overwhelmed or becoming an order taker in your business. It's also about providing resistance to the world in a way that is positively jarring, evocative. And that's where we get into expressing a heretical message. We define message as the thing your heart has to say to the world. So this is not what people want to hear necessarily. That's where the heresy comes in. It's not necessarily what people, it's definitely not what people are expecting to hear when you're talking about your business, but it is a internal or deeply held philosophy that you have about the work you do, the community you live in, or the world in general. So, for example, for us, we believe that every brand brands are how we express our soul to the world. We believe that great brands have a soul. And these are the heretical types of messages that we put out into the world and organize around, because we know we have to disrupt that glut of information that's out there. And we have to do that in a way that's not manipulative. So we have to come from a place of soul.
Yeah, and this goes to, in order to brand yourself, especially if you're a thought leader of some sort, if you're a professional service user, a consultant, coach, lawyer, therapist, whatever, if you want to be a thought leader, you either have to already be famous, and that's easy to do then, or you need to have something original to say. And heresy is basically just challenging orthodoxy. And this takes the inner work. This is why we say this is an act of courage to brand this way, because it takes the inner work to understand what your heart does want to say to the world. You have to, this is not a copywriting exercise. It's not a focus group exercise where you go find out the 8 messages that people resonate, and then that's your heretical message. It's the thing that you need to say, or it starts to erode your own sense of self if you don't say it. The thing about a heretical message too is that it's being comfortable enough that it's going to offend some people. It's going to bother some people. We announced last week that we're moving forward. We're only working with brands and leaders that are going to add light to the world or advance humanity. Well, there's a risk associated with that, because there's heresy, because in our industry of marketing and branding, you sort of just take whatever deal comes your way. And we've decided, based off of conviction, not to do that. And each one of our clients, when we're working with them to figure out their message, we're not looking for the thing that is the most shocking to say. We're looking for the thing that they can say on every conversation and on every platform in a way that transfers the emotion of what they're feeling. And a lot of that, as we say this particular one, is just saying, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way, in a different way.
So some key questions. How confident are you in expressing a message or the idea of it? Is one to think about, and I'm typing these into chat. And then another one is, what stops you from even thinking about or from sharing a heretical message? If you've done any work at all around message, here is a pro tip. You can begin that work using righteous indignation. So we don't say, we wouldn't recommend that you stay with righteous indignation and anger toward the audience. But in the beginning, it's okay to let yourself get a little bit angry about the injustice you see and come from that place of truth and emotion in trying to get that message revealed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next one. So no, you don't have to suppress your voice. So it's not just about saying one thing. It's not just about having a message. That's only going to get you so far as a brand. And in most cases, marketing is very acute. It's in the moment. But if you are able to convert that and begin and own a conversation that is able to unite people, that's able to add light, that's able to heal, and it's something, again, that's deeply wired into you as a purpose, you can slowly over time build consistency, engage more people with that conversation, and even eventually develop what we call a category around this larger conversation. So it's great if you have a message, but if you're not thinking further down the road, is there a topic? Is there an idea that is maybe just tangential to my core business or to my core brand, but that I really want to be a leader in that conversation? That's where we begin to get into organic, long-term, soulful branding that doesn't require as much hardcore marketing.
And it's similar to the work we do with category design. It's so much easier, or I would say it's much easier to deploy a strategy that starts a new conversation than trying to elbow your way into a crowded room and be heard. It takes some patience to do that. So we say branding is more like bourbon, not White Claw. It's got a process of distillation that is necessary in order for it to breathe. And so you have to have patience to go out and have these kind of conversations. But when you begin to own them, then your brand becomes a gathering place. And when your brand is a gathering place, one of the things that is a natural thing that happens is it triggers the law of reciprocity. And because you are hosting the conversation, they're going to be much more likely to buy something from you as like I said, a type of reciprocity.
I just shared a couple of key questions around conversation. So what's a larger conversation that you feel yourself kind of drawn to? And don't worry if at first you're like, well, I'm not quite sure how that connects to my brand. Again, just give yourself some creative license here to imagine. Or what big ideas in the culture, community, society do you feel pulled to address? So those are some good ways to begin to think about conversation starting.
And we would also suggest that be open to the idea that this conversation that you feel called to start has really nothing directly to do with your product or service. Our conversations that we want to go start in the world is about being a light. That's not directly related to like how to brand better. And in fact, it might be better if it's not related to your product or service, because I think it will come across as more sincere. It's certainly not a requirement. The other aspect is to be aware of othering. And we all do it. It's part of the human psyche to divide up into sort of tribal camps, because comparison is part of what keeps us alive in a lot of ways. But we just want to be careful that we don't let creep into this a tone of condemnation. I highly recommend a TED Talk by a woman named Monica Guzman. She talks about depolarization. And depolarization is having the conversation in a way that's still inclusive to people that you might disagree with. So we say offend the offendable, yes, but don't offend everybody. Is in that process, as we can have conversations as brands and as leaders that do allow alternative opinions to be heard.
Okay, and our last one here is no, you don't have to dehumanize yourself or others to be a brand. So this really goes to the idea that as human beings, maybe as business owners, as professionals, we want to invest in the spiritual and emotional well-being of people. So of course that begins with us. We're living in, I think, the most a significant, I won't say the most, but a significant amount of stress and pressure and overwhelm. And mental health, emotional health is really at a crisis state and certainly in our country, and I believe throughout the world because of the last several years. We are all dealing with incredible grief and loss There's a study that said that the death of one person on average impacts profoundly another 9 people around them. And if you think about the numbers of people who have died because of COVID, and then you do that math, we're in an incredible amount of grief and loss. And so the thing that we can do as human beings and as brand is to invest in our own mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, and also offer that investment to the people around us. So if you work in a larger organization, checking in regularly with your team, just on a human level. It can be offering them time off, time away, just noticing when they're stressed. There's a lot of other ways that are more institutional or systemized, where there are opportunities to give people access to mental health care. But this can, but it doesn't have to be that big of a program or a system. It can also just be something that you practice individually. I have a meditation practice, I have an exercise practice that helps buoy me through tough times. And I try to support the people around me and giving them time to be with their families, to step away from work. These can be just small things, but that's really where branding meets humanity. And later down the road, maybe you share those stories, not for the intention of bragging on your own practices, but for the intention of inspiring others, for the intention of inviting them into a new way of treating their people that will, in the long run, really benefit the brand and the human beings inside of it.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things that are implementable here is, if you are, for yourself, if you are your marketing team, or if you are a founder and have marketing people in particular, anybody on your team, but in particular marketing roles, is to have 2 things: is to have opportunity for unbound time. Unbound time is very healing. So that's maybe a day a week where you don't have any meetings. You just kind of go, into the flow of the day. And the second one is that you do have some activities in your brand that are purely for advancing humanity, and not put so much pressure on yourself that they have to have an ROI. If you're starting conversations with people that are drawn to you, then you're branding, and you don't have to do pressure, because I think pressure is what creates that crushing pressure that comes from the expectations that you assign to branding and marketing.
And there's some key questions I just dropped in, but Ron noted there are literally not enough therapists, even in North America, to meet this overwhelming mental health crisis, and one-to-one therapy can't meet the demand. Definitely have seen the research on that, and therapy is becoming something that is only available to the people who can afford it, which is a travesty in my mind.
Yes.
All right, so we're not going to break out, but we're going to talk now. We're kind of coming into the more of the discussion part of our time together. So we want to share this statistic, first of all, that depending on your sources, and I've done a lot of research on this, but anyway, you, as a purpose-driven business, as a soulful business, you have a distinct advantage. You are, statistics show, going to outperform your competitors who do not share that same approach by 42 to 1,681%. So this is to dig into, to know what you believe, to share consistently, to take care of the people around you in a way that is in alignment with your purpose, with your mission, is going to benefit you. First of all, as a human being, it's going to add light to the world, but it's also going to benefit your business. So we are wondering, and I'll stop the share for a minute. As you looked at these questions and as you reflected on what we've shared so far today, what is it that you might start? Is there something that you're going to start doing? Is there one action that you're going to take as a result of listening to our thoughts and ideas today? Or is there something you're going to stop doing? Is there something that maybe you're like, okay, I got to stop doing that. I wasn't really aware and I'm going to stop. Or is there something that you're already doing that you're going to continue or going to amplify or do at a new level? So let us know, is there something you're going to start? Is there something you're going to stop or something you're going to continue doing based on what we've shared today?
I think we always want to embody what we teach our clients. And, one of the things that we have ratcheted back significantly is like email marketing in the form of like pitching stuff. But I think, continuing to do things like these type of discussions is something that we love to talk about this stuff. It's fun for us too, to share these ideas. What about start? Or is there anything we're starting based off of our own like evolution as a brand? Do you see anything that we're going to start doing?
Like you, I think it's more on continue. So one of our core beliefs is in beauty, and our standard for that is to create every day. And so art has always been a major part of my life. It's been a part of the brand, but we're making a concerted effort to make sure that there's always something artful, and to share more of the art. That's something that offers a relief for people when they're out in the world being overwhelmed. And I think it expresses more of the soul of the brand. So that comes to mind as a continue.
Yeah.
Doug says, thank you. This is a perfect timing for a rethink or refocus. From what you've taught us a few years ago, we've gotten off track. Oh, you're welcome, Doug. I'm so glad that you were able to come and to share in that. Anyone else want to share something they're going to start, stop, continue? Or if you have another question, Bobby's got something here. I do notice that I am more often drawn to consider what others want or want to hear. Yes, that's totally normal. This makes me see again how central it is for me to be aware of my own voice and what my heart wants or needs to say. Very good. We need art, and we need to greatly expand our definition of art, Ron says. Yeah, I mean, art can be anything. I mean, you see a bunch of art behind me, but art can be how you go about your day, how you organize it. Art is just, I say art is making mistakes publicly. Like art is the willingness to be vulnerable and to try different things. So I love that idea. Bobby says that regular writing helps to illuminate my own voice. Yes. I find when I have low energy, even if I don't want to write, if I sit down and I do it, that helps to create more of that creative energy or inspiration around writing.
If there was a general stop, start, continue, I'll offer this one, and maybe you'll have your own, of course, is start trusting the energy. I mean, I'm quoting you. That's something you said a couple of years ago, is trust the energy. And so start trusting the energy, which means if you don't feel like something, if it doesn't feel right to you down in your bones, don't do it. The example for me is, as things opened up, is this like, oh, I have to go out and do networking. And I was like, wait a minute, I freaking hate networking. So what I'm doing instead is I'm trying to host more conversations. That's way more energy positive for me. Is there any other universal stop, start, continues that you would see, Em? We don't want to create our own cult of sameness here, but anything else that we would generally recommend stop, starting, and continuing?
I think some sort of a reflection practice. I'm in the middle of about a month of a focused gratitude practice that I'm doing nightly. That's really helpful for me. That kind of goes to that last bullet of taking care of the self and the human being. It's been a little bit of a rough time, so I started doing that, and that has really helped me. So I think that's a start. And you can do that within the business. You can do that, within your personal life. So I think that's a good start. So Ron also says words, music, movement, drawing, and so much more. Yes, a good friend of mine, Christy Vitale, is always about the movement. We are processing all of what we laid out today in our bodies, but how often do we just kind of shake it out? And I have found on days when I am back to back, if I take a little jiggle break, as she calls them, I do jumping jacks. I just kind of move like a child a little bit, it can really move the energy and pump me up. Tony Robbins suggests this with his jumping. Movement is so powerful, and we're not getting enough of that as well. All right, we just have a couple minutes left, and we want to send you off with a little bit of art here, some fun things. We encourage you to awaken your weirdness. Weirdness is a good thing in our world. We want to dive into what makes us different. We also really encourage you to push your message to the edge. Take it to the very edge. Again, you don't have to stay there, but give yourself permission to, push back from what people want to hear and dig into what you want to say. Be edgy. And then finally, is it loading here? We'd love to keep the conversation going. So there are a couple different ways we are offering to do that. You can always reach out to us at humans@rootandriver.com. You can visit our website. We post under the musings tab. You can look at former webcasts. We interview leaders once a month who are defiers. There's so much free content there for you. And then if you want to go deeper, we are super excited to be launching a Courageous Brand Cohort. It's going to be a 4-week intensive brand coaching based around these 4 principles. So we are going to gather and help you uncover 3 to 5 of your core beliefs, help you craft that heretical message, decide on that conversation, and then also dig into how you can invest in your own spiritual growth and that of the people around you to sustain all of that. So these are going to be 4 90-minute sessions. They're going to start at the end of the month. And the cost of that is $1,000 per person. But if you're already an established Root and River client, it's $750. So if you've already worked with us in the past, we just want to welcome you back in. And we know you'll be familiar with some of our terms, but maybe this is the time, as Doug said earlier, to dig back in, because so much has changed. So I want to give you, here's a link to a landing page that you can just use to reserve your spot. Let us know you're interested. This doesn't force you to pay right away. It's just a place where you can go and learn a little bit more. And I'll also post a link in the chat for that. I'll leave that up for a second.
And the last thing we have here is if you belong to any groups or associations or industry groups or whatever that you think this would cause some agitation in a positive way, please let us know. We would love to deliver this to as many people, this concept of 4 courageous acts of branding, to as many people as we can over the next year. So let us know.
And if none of that is a fit for you, we do invite you to join our brand community. It's called Being Marketers, or BEMA for short, where every month we have a theme. This month's theme is owning your ripple effect. And we have thought-provoking questions around the theme. We share content, and then we meet every week for 30 minutes of power hour coaching around the theme. And it's only $25 a month, and the first month is free. So that is there for you as well. And we just invite you to engage, because we are trying to create a movement around stopping this unhealthy marketing, really focusing on healthy marketing and knowing and rooting into your courageous brand. So that concludes the most of the content that we have. We have like a minute left. If there's anything else, feel free to drop it in chat. Megan says, I'm really enjoying your webinars. Grateful I found you. Yes. Make sure switch our chat to everyone. I see not everybody has done that. Thank you, Megan. That's a great tip. I appreciate that so much. So please reach out. We'll let you go, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time and attention and for joining us.
Thank you.